you either import the people or you import the products. That's where we're at right now, folks. Here in Michigan, we have a farming tradition that is deep and varied and wide. We are second when it comes to California as far as for diversification of products in the agricultural industry. You know, we have unique soils, temperature, Midwestern, got a lot of water, all the deals, right? But we're second versus California. Now, one of the things that we don't necessarily deal with here at the same level that California does is the number of undocumented workers that we have that have been working in the fields. That being said, it is something that has been done forever here in Michigan. It's no different than a lot of other places. And right now, what's occurring, it's occurring here, it's occurring around the country. That's why it's as important as it is the shift that's occurring in the labor at the same time that tariffs are kicking in that are undermining the sales that our farmers and the farmers around the country in the US have had going for decades now. And it's an issue, and it's something that we've got to get figured out, because if we're going to have our farmers go under, that's going to put us in serious issues for security, frankly, work, all the goodness that you want to have in a thriving economy and country. Again, my name is Ryan Howe. I am a business coach, works out of West Michigan, around the country. Come here live on YouTube pretty consistently, although I've been doing more of the just, walking and talking type of things here lately. And this is one in particular that hits close to home. I'm in rural Michigan. Up here, you can see, out here just walking near one of our parks. And, I come from a family of farmers. Something we've just been seeing. Yeah, there's always been subsidies, and you're going to hear, and this isn't discussions about should the government be subsidizing farming, what is the government's impact or responsibility? That's not what today's talk is about. That's a separate one. It does come down to what the labor mix is and what we're dealing with here, and how, good, bad, or indifferent, the entire labor market for agriculture is getting turned on its head, rightfully so. And I will say that out loud. For too long, undocumented workers coming in, legal immigrants as they're being said now with the Trump administration, they have been the backbone of our labor for things like in agriculture and farming, which isn't good, because when you have undocumented workers, right, there isn't people checking in on to make sure that all the labor laws are being followed. Not saying that that's anything that was happening per se. A mosquito decided it wanted to come by and offer its 2 cents. But anyways, so we have all that going on. Again, how the workers are being managed, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in reality, what has happened over the last quite a few years here is it's been the H-2 program. We hear a lot about the H-1B visa program. The H-2A is the agricultural version of that. And what that does is it is really where we're at. And that is, in my opinion, is the correct answer. Because as I mentioned at the beginning here, either you import the workers or you're going to import the product. And for us, we'd much rather have where we are doing things above board, doing things right, with transparency to make sure that these employees that we're bringing in have all the protections, they're getting paid correctly, and they're being taken care of. So the H-2A visa program is unique in certain ways, but it has to do with agriculture, and it allows, and it requires, one, there's a minimum wage that they have, which is higher than Michigan's minimum wage. And it requires transportation and housing to be provided for these individuals, because they're temporary workers. They're not full-time. They're meant to come up here, do some work during season, and then they head back to whichever country they came from, right? And that's the idea with their visa. Is that ideal? That's the next question, right? What does that do for this area, for our, this area of Michigan, but just say around the country, for communities to decide that there's labor that they're not going to hire locally to do, that they're going to import those folks in? What does it actually do to a community? And that's something that when I was growing up, we were working in the fields. We were picking asparagus. We were out there baling hay, doing corn, soybeans, beans, green beans, you name it. All these things where we were doing as kids and young adults for good work during the summer and good pay. Well, with the shift to more and more, again, H-2A visa workers, but let's just say, I think the number is somewhere between 40 and 60% of all agricultural workers are undocumented immigrants, right? Illegal aliens, whatever we're calling them now, legal immigrants. And that shift that occurred, I don't know when it occurred or why it occurred, but it definitely occurred. And now we're just trying to undo that. Well, what does that do for the community here? What's that do for the business of agriculture? Well, one of the things that occurs is that the specialty foods, the specialty, the high dollar niche type things that you can grow, by only having your, for temporary employees, right, to come in, that you're only gonna really have them there during harvest time. You can't afford to have them in there during all the other maintenance time. So you're gonna end up making a business decision on the agricultural side here. You're gonna make a business decision that is gonna be on the food items that require the least number of inputs at the beginning. So you end up with more corn, because corn does take some work, but it doesn't take that much. Especially it's all done with machines, planting, harvesting, and everything else, versus things like strawberries and other things that require, hands and be able to get after it. So there's that piece, in which we're seeing here in Michigan, you're seeing a considerable drop off in the specialty food items. So what does that mean? Rather than having them local, now the folks here in Michigan are being forced to pay a higher rate because we're importing them from other states and other areas consistently, rather than having a season where we can get them locally. Additionally, the more that you have monoculture going on and less diversity, you open yourself up, you're increasing the risk that you're gonna run into a situation where you have a crop failure in one thing. When you have 50 different crops that are being produced throughout the state, that's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, it's still a big deal, but you can absorb it as an economy, as a region. As more and more the number of crops are being reduced more often, now you're opening yourself up to additional risk, because now you're in more and more closer to a monoculture. It means you get the wrong disease in here and all the bad things start happening, okay? Now, listen, I don't have answers on this one. This is simply just more of a conversation about the business decisions that people are being forced to make in the changing economy, with the shifts in immigration policy, with the changes in tariffs that are going on, changing in demographics, the food items that the boomers want versus what we're having now. All of these things are occurring, and farmers are doing their best to try to stay afloat in an environment where prediction is nearly impossible. So really the intent of this entire video, this was simply just to come out and kind of talk about what we're dealing with here. But this is the decision that farmers are having to make, to go back to the beginning. Either we're going to import the people to do the labor and do the work, or we're going to import the products. And my hope is that we're able to find some sort of happy medium there, to where we are able to import the labor that we need for, at the very minimum, and we're able to find a way to employ more people locally, so that we can continue to have the depth and breadth and variety of local fruits and vegetables that are grown here in Michigan for the country to enjoy, but for us to enjoy here too. And the same principle we want to see applied across the board around the country where there is agriculture. Let's find a way to do this. Now, what is that going to look like? I don't know. Do I think that there's going to be some government involvement in this from subsidy level? Absolutely. I think that's going to happen, because you need to have a vibrant food production in your country. So I see that happening. But beyond that, I don't know what the immigration and labor solve is going to be. But I do know it's going to be different than what it looks like today, and there's going to be winners and losers. My hope is that the winners are those that are going to be leading towards a healthier economy and agricultural base here in West Michigan. Again, I'm a business coach. It's what I do for my work. I advise folks. This is simply just more of something I'm seeing here and within my local economy. It's something that we're struggling with, and I just wanted to be able to have something out there today to kind of chat about it. So if you'd like to learn more about how I help businesses grow faster than I ever thought possible, go ahead and check me out at summitbusinessguys.com. Hopefully I earned your subscription today. Take care. We'll see you next time.